Venom: The Last Dance arrives in theaters this weekend, and it's bringing Marvel big bad Knull with it. This is the third and final installment of the Venom franchise, with Tom Hardy reprising the role of Eddie Brock / Venom, and is directed by the writer of the previous Venom flicks, Kelly Marcel, in what I believe is her directorial debut. Listen, dude, if you're into the Venom films, you'll be into this movie. Sony successfully turned one of Marvel's most iconic, grim-dark anti-heroes into a wacky buddy misadventure. And who am I to say they're wrong to do that? These movies make hundreds of millions of dollars. This movie, like the previous ones, has the internal logic of like a 9-year-old banging their toys together. I mean, characters make some of the most baffling decisions imaginable, and the stakes are all over the place. But let's be honest, tapping into your inner 9 to 13-year-old isn't exactly the worst instinct when it comes to Venom. Now, as a longtime fan of the character from the comics, do I wish there was a movie featuring Venom that was better? Yeah, sure. Obviously. At least the Spider-Man 2 game was good. So this time, Eddie and Venom are on the run from the law for a crime they sort of didn't commit, while they're also being chased by a xenophage sent by none other than Knull himself. If you're not familiar with the character, he's the creator of the symbiotes and one of the more recent cosmic-level Marvel big bads. He was part of the event The King in Black. He doesn't get a ton of screen time here, but he looks cool, and the actor that got to portray him is perfect, especially for this franchise. Now, I don't know if they've officially announced who it is, so I'm not going to reveal it here, but you can look it up if you want. And they're definitely trying to position Knull for bigger things in the Sony Spider-Verse they're building, which is slightly confusing given the trajectory of this film. Again, no spoilers. This time around, Hardy is joined by Juno Temple and Chiwetel Ejiofor, two amazing actors that are saddled with all of the exposition. Like almost every scene they have together is them re-explaining the plot and their motivations to each other. They're great, but it's kind of a drag. Also, Rhys Ifans returns to the Spider-Man sphere, not as a lizard, as a different character, but he's delightful in the movie. If I haven't made it clear so far, this isn't going to be the brightest superhero movie you've ever seen, but we shouldn't really expect that from this franchise at this point, right? That feels kind of unreasonable. Here's the thing I really can't figure out. I don't know that I could argue that these Venom movies are any better than either Morbius or Madame Web, but they are infinitely more watchable, and I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it's Tom Hardy's absolute gameness for every piece of nonsense this franchise throws at him. Maybe despite being the crown jewel of Sony's Spider-Man-less spider efforts, it doesn't feel overly concerned with that stuff. Like Michael Keaton doesn't show up in a post-credit scene to sweatily try and recruit Venom to take down a character he hasn't even met. And maybe there's not enough big dumb fun in the superhero space right now, and this fills that void. Honestly, couldn't tell you, other than I like watching these movies more than I liked Morbius and Madame Web, so that's something. Truthfully, I think the most glaring misstep of this movie is that it doesn't include Michelle Williams returning as Anne Wang. Not only has she been a highlight in the previous movies, but considering they're positioning this as the title character's last dance, it would make a lot of sense to include her here, and it feels like a glaring omission. Maybe Michelle Williams realized she's too good for this franchise. Otherwise, if you're a big fan of the previous Venom movies, I can't see you being disappointed with this one. It's undeniably silly, but it's light, it's blissfully short, the actors are clearly having a blast. There are definitely worse ways to spend a night at the movies. That said, if you're a fan of the character from the comics, like me, maybe one of these days we'll get that iconic logo. Those are my thoughts on Venom: The Last Dance. Are you excited for this movie? Were you a fan of the previous ones? Would you like to see Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock square off with Tom Holland's Peter Parker? Let me know in the comments down below. Share, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Be sure to check out our new show, Krypton Academy, where I'm talking about all the Superman movies with Sal from Comic Pop, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.